So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Victoria Garcia, who's the CEO at BindEthics Ltd. So, Victoria, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, BindEthics, what you do, and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Okay, well, ready for it. Okay, so my name is Victoria, and I'm the CEO of BindEthics. We are committed to the development and commercialization of bio-adhesives for the engineered wood market specifically.
Yeah.
We can use it for other things, but it's mainly. And normally when I say this, people don't really, they can't picture what I said, like glue, what. And I always say, like, if you happen to have like an IKEA board at home, like
Yeah.
a desk or a shelf,
Yes.
that's made out of wood and glue.
Yeah.
And the glue is the reason why you cannot recycle that IKEA piece of furniture. So once you're bored of your IKEA board or shelf, or you can't burn it. And people know this. People know that they can't really put in the chimney the engineered wood products, the particle board or that desk, but they don't know why. And the
Yes.
reason is because of the glue.
Right.
So the glue is made of, well, the raw material for the glue is toxic and carcinogenic. So you don't want to burn it.
Yeah.
But because of the adhesive, we can't recycle the final piece of furniture, and it ends up in the landfill.
Yeah.
So that it goes to contaminate the soil and rivers.
Yes.
And also because it comes from fossil fuels, it has a heavy CO2 footprint
Yep.
on something that is made of wood. So then the whole piece is not sustainable, and it definitely does not fall within the circular economy cycle. So basically what we've done is develop an alternative
Yep.
in a way that you can still have your IKEA furniture, but when you don't want to use it anymore, you'll be able to burn it or send it to landfill, but you know that it will be biodegradable. So it won't cause
Brilliant.
environmental harm. That's
Brilliant.
the key. And actually, the reason why it hasn't been banned, because governments know about this, is
Yeah.
because there's no alternative. Like,
Yes.
we have that glue. It's been there for the last 100 years,
Yeah.
and well, that's why I guess we've received a lot of support from the
Yes.
government through grants to find this
Yeah.
alternative. So that's what BindEthics does. Maybe this is a good moment, like, I don't know if you want to ask something, it's a good moment for me to jump into how this connects to the next business.
Please do. Yes.
Okay, so one of the main struggles that we had when we started was to find lab space. There is a massive shortage of lab space in the UK. And, who would imagine that lab space and laboratory is where these new technologies are developed, where innovation happens.
Yeah.
And, as supportive as the government is through grants and funding, if you do not have a place to get started, you simply can't do it.
Yes.
We really struggle with that. And then, if you happen to find some laboratory space, first of all, there is a waiting list. So, you and your idea have to wait until this laboratory space becomes available. And if you're lucky and you're on a waiting list, it happened to me. I looked for it in Leeds, and I'm not going to say where, but it's the only laboratory space that you could access publicly in Leeds. It was like, we would have to pay, let's say, £3,000 for a small lab.
Yeah.
With a 6-month contract.
Right.
So it's not that we would also have to give a deposit. And the situation with this is that if you're an early stage company,
Yeah.
where do you have the funds for that?
Yeah.
I had just quit my job to set up this company. I could barely pay for my rent. There is no way
Yes.
I could pay for laboratory space
Yeah.
that on top happened to be empty. So, we are going to do chemistry. And if you give me that laboratory, I need to have flasks and hot plates and some sort of at least rudimentary equipment.
Yep.
So there is no way we could afford that. Luckily for us, we found this, we found a grant, and it was like something that it was happening back then. This regional support coming from the European Union. So with one of those grants, we managed to find laboratory space at the BDC, the Biorenewable Development Center in York, in Dunnington.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is how we had access to a lab, and we could work and develop our minimum viable product.
Yep.
But then going back to that now BindEthics is doing great. We're raising private funding at the moment, but we got another grant. We've won awards. The technology is working. We have our patent pending. So everything is great. But like I had that pain as a scientist.
Yes.
So my background is chemistry, the pain of how many people I know
Yep.
and how many companies I've seen. And we've all of us, we've gone through the same struggle, laboratory
Yep.
space. And it doesn't matter if you're very early stage. If you're very early stage, the problem is bigger because you don't have money and you don't have the connections, the
Yes.
resources there. But even when you get private investment and your idea is growing, there's no lab space, even if you have the funds. So then
Yes.
the second business is called Quick Labs. What we've done, we've set up a method. Well, a method is like a model by which we're setting up laboratory space that is fully equipped and that people can come develop their experiments and let's say pay as you go. So no deposits, no
Brilliant.
contract. You have this budget,
Brilliant.
let's say £4,000. Okay, well, that will allow you to be in the lab for 15 days.
Brilliant.
Just manage them the way you want. And we're here to support those businesses. So this goes for like a PhD student that's just graduated or a postdoc or an academic that wants to develop their own ideas without having the university involved, because then there's problems with IP and stuff. If chemistry is your hobby, or if you're a small company, or even if you're a big company, you have a project going on, then there is laboratory space, like kind of open access. So that is what we're at the moment. So then BindEthics is growing while we're setting up Quick Labs.
Wonderful. So that's an opportunity for to or pay as you go for a laboratory, so you can really get going quickly if you've got an idea that you can that requires a lab.
Exactly. If you have an idea, and well, this is the time for innovation. We're going towards net zero. We know that we have to stop being dependent on fossil fuels. All our technology is dependent on it. So the only way we're actually going to achieve net zero is through innovation.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but it's mainly chemistry, so like chemical innovation. So yeah, we won't manage if we don't have the laboratory space to make this happen. And there is people out there with amazing ideas and amazing skills that they literally just need the place to carry them out.
So you have one of these already set up?
So we're in the process, and we had a deal actually with the landlord in Leeds, and everything was going okay. And only last week, he said that if we do it, it will have to be in Christmas. And I'm like, I have all the equipment prepared. I have people already, like a waiting list. I even somehow managed to get investors to help me with the whole idea. Like everybody's waiting for this project to so that I think a step back, we're looking for the space. Again, we're looking to convert a warehouse or like a small or office space. There's a lot of office space that because of COVID, they're now empty. So we are looking actively for the space, for something close to the city, easily accessible, that we could turn into the lab. So that's what we are at the moment. So.
Wonderful. Oh, great. Well, best of luck with that. I might have a couple of people I could probably introduce you to. So
definitely,
we'll have a chat afterwards about that. Brilliant. Well, amazing. So maybe if we go back to sort of the start of this whole thing, would it be okay to tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one?
Oh, yeah. Well, what is that? So my background is chemistry.
Right.
So I actually graduated in Amsterdam, the University of Amsterdam, with a master's degree in organic chemistry. And I work in a pharmaceutical company there for a while. I also collaborated with petrochemical companies. Then I work in academia. I moved to the UK in 2018. I think it was, it was 2018 when I moved to the UK. The reason is because I wanted to be in the UK. So I was in the Netherlands. I knew the UK is the place to be. And I don't know because I hadn't lived here before, but I knew it. And, my plan was I'm just going to go to the UK. I'm going to relocate. I will get myself a job in Starbucks or something while I'm applying, for chemistry jobs. And while I was doing that, a friend of mine said that, well, the UK has a massive shortage of chemistry teachers. Why don't you just go and get yourself a job as a teacher rather than Starbucks? little did I know. I was like, well, that sounds great. It's great. I'm gonna be a teacher, and then I can teach for for an academic year, for example, and then go back to industry. But just having the place being all settled in the UK, go for the interviews and everything. I wanted to be. And so then I taught for a year. I was teaching in a grammar school in Kent for an academic year.
Yeah.
And then after that experience, I got a job in Bristol, working in a startup as well. So then actually is when I started my journey into the startup world that I didn't know, because I had worked for massive companies before that.
Yes.
And I think that was the key. That when I was working in this startup, and they happened to be an incubator, so it was like laboratory space, and let's say there were 20 companies, and each company had their own allocated lab.
Yes.
So then I got to meet the most amazing people ever, like this entrepreneurial, even the owner of the incubator, he said it. And then he turned a warehouse into this incubator. So then I got to see how ideas from thin air turned into a reality, into jobs, economic prosperity, innovation, new technology. He told me, I got to see people that had started. I actually got to see people that I remember they were only renting office space, and they just had an idea, and they loved it just themselves. And then a year later, having a team of 4 people, having won grants to develop their technology. Investors had also been attracted to the technology that they were developing, and then seeing the change in a year. It was, of course, it was also the ecosystem, the support, people were helping each other. And so I learned that networking was really very important. So then that's why then I changed job into a company that were developing bioplastics. So then after that I changed job, and it was also a startup. So then it's okay, again, a startup, to see how the potential, how these things happen. It was I was mind blown. We were developing bioplastics, and then after that, so I worked in the company for 2 years, and then after that, I think it was the moment that I said to myself, I have a lot of ideas. I know I have the skills because I'm a scientist myself. Most of those companies I'm talking about, the people that founded them, some of them were not even scientists. So then they just had the idea, and part of their job was to hire scientists. I'm like, wouldn't it be easy for me, since I already have the scientists within me? And that was the path. So then in 2021, we relocated to Leeds, and I said, well, I'm gonna give it a go. Let's see what happens. And that's how.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating, and it's an interesting proposition, isn't it? Are the best, let's get this right, scientific businesses run by scientists that learn business, or business people that learn science? And there will be different ones. There's certainly different ones, and so looking back, since you founded the business, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
I think so. The first one was the lab space. That was the biggest one.
Yes.
I already elaborated on how hurt I was that now I'm setting up a business to help all those past me's. The other challenge is always, well, now I see it from a different perspective, but it's funding. It is research. So it's not that you're setting up a business that is going to offer a service straight away, and then you will be making money. You might be able to start with a loan. If you're doing research, where do the funds come from? That's the thing. So that was kind of the main challenge until I learned how to apply for grants. So then the challenge, I'd say, because the funding is there, that is what I want to say. And the message I want to say is if you have an idea, you have to go for it because the funding is there. If you see the need, the government, the local authorities, the people around you are going to support you. So go for it. It looked a bit daunting at the beginning, and I had to learn that, right? I had to learn how to apply, where to apply, how to apply, and very, very connected to this is that the network, the connection, the people around you.
Yes.
It is the most important thing. And when I started, I had nothing. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections or network or anything. I didn't even know what I was doing. So, so then when that network grew, it's like suddenly the right connections come and the funding comes, and then you get to hear about this grant that only a few people have heard about, but they let you know. So it helps. I think those were the biggest challenges for me.
Wowzers. That's I mean, just as you say, having to do the research to produce the outcome is clearly that step is, many people don't have to go to that step because they're already providing the service straight away. They don't have to research it to provide it. And so looking at business and the business you've grown from that perspective, what are some of the biggest things you've learned about growing a business?
I'd say it goes again. The things that I learned is like how important having the right network around you is. To me, that is the thing that has really transformed the business. Anytime that I have a challenge, let's say I need to hire people, and I want to hire people, but I want the best talent, and it goes through talking to people. And if you already have the right network, like I know the scientist or I know this girl, you should interview them and then go for it. So then the work suddenly is gone. Like last time it happened, we hired a scientist, and it was like through my mentor. I have a mentor for my company. So then my mentor, like I said, I'm looking for somebody to start from in July. I have the right person. And oh my God, it was the right person.
Brilliant.
Like the perfect person. So, then any little thing that you have, or I'm looking now for funding. Okay, you should talk to this investor or this person. I know they go like, I've talked to this investor in the past. I think they would be interested in what you're developing. So then, when you go already with an introduction and people that know, people that things become so much easier. So that is, I think, my biggest lesson was like networking and how to build it, because that is another thing, another mistake that I made when I started. Like I would attend every meeting, every webinar, like you just go everywhere because you do not know when or you're going to find the right person that is going to. And that was also a mistake. I wouldn't do that now. And now I'm very, very selective as to which events I go to, which seminar, who I talk to, like be very selective, having a very clear idea of what type of connection do I need now, I would like to have.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, our definition of a true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owner. That doesn't mean you can't work with it, but it's that I don't, I'm not involved in everything, because that's the biggest challenge. I certainly know that's happened to me in my first business, with just being involved with everything, and ultimately we become the barrier to growth because it's dependent on our time and our availability, and that becomes a big problem. Brilliant. Well, you mentioned your mentor, and I was going to say we are a business coaching organisation ourselves, and I'm keen to know who the best coaches you work with, whether that's business, sport, just life in general. Who are your biggest influences?
That was interesting because, as I said, I worked in startups in the past, right? And there were startups that were developing some scientific technology, but the founders or the owners, they were not necessarily trained in chemistry, or at least the part. Maybe they were engineers, they had some sort of scientific background, but not chemistry, which was the part I was working on. And many times I felt like I'm not being understood. They're asking for things, and I'm not being understood, and I don't think I'm capable of making them understand me either. As if we're speaking different languages. I'm speaking the language of a scientist, and then they're speaking the language of business. And it's like this. It cannot be so hard to connect it. I would say it is hard to connect those two. It is we think differently. So I wanted to surround myself by people that could understand this. Because I don't want to have the same situations that I had when I was working for somebody. Like and definitely I wouldn't like to have, let's say, a person that is doing marketing in my company, and because I'm a scientist, I do not understand what they're doing. So it's like it will go both ways, I'm sure. So one of the organizations that has really supported BindEthics is the Royal Society of Chemistry. They do an
Brilliant.
amazing job, and if
Yeah.
you have a business in chemistry, it's definitely worth reaching out because they
Great.
are very supportive. And it was through them, through the Royal Society of Chemistry, that I was very specific, and I said, I want a mentor that is running their own business,
Brilliant.
but is a scientist. And
Yeah.
that was my request, because there's a lot of business people that can be mentors, but I felt that was my thing.
Yes.
You need to know chemistry, otherwise I don't think you'll be able to help me.
Yes.
Like my own previous employees weren't able to help me, so
Yeah.
and they knew how to run a business, definitely. So then that is and that was great. The support of the Royal Society of Chemistry, and that's where my mentor came from, was
Wonderful.
a scientist and a business owner.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And as you say, be able to communicate between those two, they're quite different disciplines. So yeah, that making that connection is really key. And through your mentor or through the work you've done, it, do you find yourself using any favorite quotes or sayings about business in general? That any things that that you say on a regular basis?
Say it again.
Do you have any favorite quotes or sayings? It's I like to pick up things that people say about business or about success. There's so many different ones, but you might have
There is
one.
one that is kind of my favorite.
Great, great.
I don't know if it applies to business. Well, everything applies to life, but one that I really like is that um, people that don't feel they're successful put it down to the circumstances. It's because
Yes,
my parents didn't give me the right education and I was born poor, or like, and people that are successful, they always say that they are self-made.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you're successful, you won't say, "Oh, yeah, I'm successful because my parents gave me the right education," or
yeah,
like
yeah.
I had the right I was in the right neighborhood. No, it's like, yeah, I am successful because I work really hard, because I seek the opportunities, because I didn't give up. And if you feel that you're not successful, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's because I had ungrateful relatives.
Brilliant. Yeah, that resonates very strongly. We have a diagram that we talk about where we call it the point of power. So we say if any point in time, and any day, any hour, we can go below and do blame or excuses or denial, and blame other things, other people, the economy, funding,
The government.
the government, absolutely so many different things, or go above and do ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And it's about us. Wherever we want to get to is about us, not about other things or other people.
Yeah, so that's actually the way I use it, right? When I'm in a situation like, I didn't get the funding because the referees were not doing a good job. I'm pretty sure they
Yes,
didn't rate it correctly. That is like, it's their fault. They don't understand the idea.
absolutely.
Like, Victoria, let's see, maybe it has nothing to do with them. Look at yourself. That is the only thing that you can do to be successful. Like, so then I apply that in my life when I'm exactly doing that,
Brilliant.
complaining, blaming.
Me too, 100%. And I always say to people, it's okay to go down and blame for a bit, but then knowing that you're there means we go back up top. We go and say, right, okay, yeah, it's about me. Right, what do I do differently next time? How can I make it better? Wonderful. So alongside that, what else have you learned about yourself so far?
Well, I don't know. Like, if I'm honest, Chris, I am like a complete new person. So, a complete new person. When I started, I was so fearful. I had so little confidence in myself. My fear every day was like, I'm not gonna make it. I was worried all the time, and I think it was by working and not giving up that I transformed myself and the way I see problems now. And for example, the one I was talking about with the landlord, like everything was ready to go. I have the companies ready to move into the new facility. I have investors ready to invest based on a deal that I already said I have with the landlord. And I know, like, only like last week, I look at myself like, oh my God, if this had happened at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, I would have been terrified. And a different person was like, said like, oh my God, that the place that we had selected was a very, very good one in a very good location with the good facilities around it. It's like, you know what? The next place is going to be amazing, out of this planet, because if things do not work for me anymore, it's because there's something better waiting. So no,
Brilliant.
I don't get worried, and I'm just going to let the investors know and the companies know, well, we
Brilliant.
have to wait a little bit more, or not, maybe, because if I find it tomorrow, then, maybe we even start. So then this mindset is like, yeah, what did I learn by myself? No, I'm a completely different person.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Amazing. And so I guess looking forward now, you've obviously achieved so much so far, but what does the future look like for you, and what are the main challenges you might face, if any?
Well, actually, we have developed the clue, and we have the minimum viable product.
Yep.
We've done a lot of research. We've studied the supply chain, how we're gonna make this happen. But now we are, like, right now, starting in July, actually, the scale up process.
Yep.
And again, this is going to be a new challenge. My field of expertise is laboratory work. And when we're
Yes.
talking about scaling up, we're talking
Yes.
about commercialization. So then
Yes.
once you scientifically show how this can be scaled
Yep.
up, how much glue you can produce per hour, per minute, that it actually meets industry standards. It's
Yep.
like you have to produce a scale at the volumes that they need.
Yes, of course.
Um, then the whole phase of commercializing now. We have a lot of interest, although we have a lot of companies, big companies, already knocking on our door. Like, as soon as you have it, please have me in mind. Send me a sample. And the samples that they ask for is like 10,000 liters. So
Nice.
then, we have companies asking, can you send us a sample? Like, yeah, a liter or two. No, like, we can't. Like, it's engineered wood. You've
Brilliant.
seen our facilities. We need 10,000. Like, okay, then I need funding. If I, I need to do that. So then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have the funding for that now, and we're doing the scale up. So I think this is going to be a whole new chapter
yeah.
and a whole new challenge. I just hope to stay positive.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I can see that it's a very different stage because we're now going from the research side to the manufacturing and
Exactly.
which is a whole new discipline in itself, as you say, not just from a chemistry perspective, just from a marketing, a selling, and all those
All
things.
of that. Yeah, all of that.
Ama-
Again,
ama-
again, it's with the Royal Society of Chemistry. They've done that with other companies, so I feel I have somebody to fall
Brilliant,
back on.
wonderful. And I'm keen to know what you would say to anybody that was thinking of going into business right now.
Well, my thing was always the same. If you want to go into business, what I suggest is that you ask yourself why you want to do it, and
Right?
if you want to do it, like, can you get those things that you want in a different way? Does it have to be a business, or can it be by doing something
Yep.
different? What is it exactly that you want when you say, I want a business? And
Yes.
if you're clear about it, then then it's yours.
Brilliant. That's a really good answer. And if you started your business again, is there anything significant that you would do differently, do you think?
Everything, Chris.
Oh,
Just everything. Every single thing will be different.
oh my goodness.
Um, I think the only thing I wouldn't change is the people I surrounded myself
Great.
by at the very beginning. My
Yeah, great.
co-founder and my financial officer, so it's a team of three that, that was the best thing and the
Wonderful.
good thing that I did when we started. And if like as I said, if I'm starting now, Quick Labs, is the mindset. So if I would be doing
Yeah.
that something different, everything is different now. I am contacting the right people. I get invited to the right events somehow. I know when to say no. Well, thank you very much for that, but it is not what I need at the moment. Sometimes you say yes because it's like, oh, you've offered me something. If I say no now, then next time you won't offer me the opportunity to, let's say, collaborate. And now in a position that's, if I say to you, no, not right now, it's not the right moment. I am confident that, when the next opportunity appears, you're going to again ask me somehow. So it is, everything is different in terms of the mindset that I'm,
Yeah.
the mindset, the view, the positive outlook that and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I'm enjoying it when I do it. So worst case scenario, I had a good time.
Absolutely. And I think it's that having that confidence that it's okay. The founder of my organization, a very successful guy, he told me many years ago that he believed he was as successful as he was because he'd made more mistakes than anybody else he knew. Not despite it, but because
Yeah,
it's a willingness to take a
yeah,
step forward, not be fearful, just
yeah,
and I think I see that in many successful people. It's that willingness to try something, to go forward, to fail, to make a mistake. It's okay.
yeah.
And that's good. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
My my advice, and I did it when I was working, and when I learned it when I was in school with the crazy teenagers, is that they're right. Do not listen to adults because they don't know anything. Like if you feel whatever you feel, it's right. Don't listen to your parents. Don't listen to anybody. Just do what you think is right because it's right.
Now, I've got about to be 18-year-old daughter, so I'm not sure I want to go through this bit.
She's right. They're right. God. And then, I can see how adults like they put so many limitations that should not be there. Yeah. And then they have to adapt to this 9 to 5 kind of way of living that we have developed. But yeah,
I
so
agree.
that would be my advice. You're right.
No, it is sound advice.
Don't listen
In
to
fact,
anybody.
it's advice I'm giving her. It's like she's not sure what she's going to do. That's okay. She's going to take a year and do some stuff and have some fun, and then see. Then we just never know. What you never know what's the future holds, and we don't know what's right for us until we try different things. I don't think that's
Yeah,
the thing, isn't it?
exactly. And what is right for somebody else might not be the right thing for you.
Absolutely. So, although as parents you want to try and help and advise, we're all individuals. So, completely agree. Well, Victoria, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, and I can see that you're going to go from strength to strength, and with both businesses. And for anyone that would like to get in touch with you or the company, they're
Yeah.
interested in anything, what's the best way of contacting you?
Like you can email me. So that if you email at contact@bindethics.com, then I'll be there. Like even in the website, there is like a email address that you could. Yeah, I'm also on LinkedIn.
Right. Oh, brilliant. Okay, well that's all good. And look, it'd be great to talk again in another 6 or 12 months and just see, because I'm
And
sure
let's see.
things are going to go very fast. Especially if you're in this sort of going from minimum viable product into manufacturing. It's going to be quite fascinating to learn what you've learned over the next year or so.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Very welcome.